Transforming your life through hypnotherapy has never been easier. With the help of your host, Julie from coachinghypnosis.net, and these power-packed minisodes, you're sure to find yourself engaging in more positive behaviors around both your physical and mental health. Here's your host, Julie.
G'day, it's Julie from coachinghypnosis.net, and you deserve to know the one insane frequency hypnosis myth of 2022, because people are sick of being so friggin' fabulous and being fed a bunch of baloney at the same time. I'm not a therapist or psychotherapist, but this is my 9th year as a clinical hypnotherapist in strategic psychotherapy. I currently help my clients online. They change their life without changing out of their pajamas. Here is the one insane frequency hypnosis myth of 2022. Hypnosis is a state that can be measured. The truth is, current technologies might be sophisticated enough to measure hypnosis, but the fact is, biologically, hypnosis isn't that different or distinct to generate its own biological signature, because you can be daydreaming, watching TV, reading, or listening to music in a trance-hypnotic-like state. And we're often in and out of trance most of the time, except when we aren't. And the brain is measured in some weird and wonderful ways. One of the most amusing would be positron emission tomography, PET. Developed in the 1970s, the subject will be injected or inhale radioactive isotopes, a rather invasive technique, but these traces would flow to different parts of the brain, measuring the volume of blood flow, and that would result in a 3-dimensional map of the brain. And you've probably heard of fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. It's probably the most popular because it can measure the hypnotic state of resting or a suggestion, and it measures the metabolic rate through oxygen in the blood. During fMRI technique, your head is enclosed in kind of a magnet that generates a magnetic field to measure blood flow. And finally, EEG. Electroencephalography. You've probably seen pictures of it where the electrodes are placed on a person's scalp. F is for frontal, T is for temporal, C is for central. The odd numbers are on the left side of the brain, the even numbers are on the right, and it can measure brainwave states like theta, alpha, gamma. But the brain is instrumental in generating the experience of hypnosis. And it reminds me of when it was fashionable to give clients a lobotomy for mental problems. The findings were promising at first. The patient seemed calmer and relaxed, but slowly over time they'd settle into a routine, become annoyed, agitated, and if their routine changed, they'll become angry, violent, and forgetful, almost primitive, and they wouldn't live a very long time. And our frontal lobe is where we imagine. It navigates our future. It's connected to all other parts of the brain. Dr Joe Dispenza describes that when we are creative, our frontal lobe becomes highly active and lowers the volume on the rest of the brain. And he has some inspiring stories of how monks are able to light up their frontal lobe like a Christmas tree with single-minded, focused attention. I think the technical term is paying attention. And it was Francis Crick who discovered the DNA double helix and then became a brain scientist in search of an awareness neuron. And there was a recent study in the International Journal of Clinical and Experimental Hypnosis to try and find the essence of consciousness. I can't give you the details because you need to buy the research or subscribe to the journal, but the subjects were given a dose of quantum hypnosis. They tried chaos theory in order to try and discover a Tao-like hypnosis state. And the quantum hypnosis induction was a bit like this. There is order and confusion to order. And there is a new field of study known as quantum cognition, a new research program that uses mathematical principles from quantum theory as a framework to explain human cognition, like decision-making, concepts, memory, and perception. Even the great sci-fi writer and LSD pioneer Aldous Huxley had a special inquiry to the nature and character of various states of consciousness. He worked with hypnotist Milton Erickson, enhancing his different states of conscious awareness. And maybe you already know Vittorio Benassi during the 1920s measured emotions like happiness without any cognitive or imaginative experience. And what astounded the research community was he found a respiratory profile for each emotion. He could tell by how someone was breathing their emotional state, and by their skin conductance. And the heart was once considered the brain of the body, not the brain. And your wonderful heart generates electromagnetic fields that are connected to a unified field. And out of all the organs, your heart is the only one that has intelligence. It can connect us to love and unity rather than stress. However, these feelings of love and unity tend to only occur to us as chance, rather than us taking ownership to cultivate these states. But you and I both know we can regulate our internal states, but it does require knowledge, practice, and dedication. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is a leader in heart coherence, describes that when we are in heart coherence, we tap into the heart's intelligence. A healthy gene expression occurs, cultivating, sustaining elevated emotions like joy, gratitude, freedom, and loving states. This creates a new internal order, and in return gives the brain energy and creativity from the nervous system. And the best bit is, we feel calm, safe, and in harmony. And the spaces between our heartbeats are a bit like Morse code sending the body and brain a bunch of messages. This complex transmission is helpful because when people focus on their heart with elevated emotions like joy and gratitude, compassion, it can be measured within the heart rhythm and the rate of the heart rhythm. It can cascade 1,400 biological changes that promote growth and repair throughout your body. But when you're feeling hurt, stressed, or competition, it's different. It's kinda not that great. And one of the greatest basketball coaches, John Wooden, would say to his players, it's not about competing. It's about being the best that you can be. His players would celebrate not winning or losing a game. They would decide how well they played, if they did or didn't do their absolute best. So when you're feeling hurt, stressed, or in competition, the connection from the heart to the brain releases 1,200 biochemicals equivalent to those feelings. And as you and I already know, that's kinda not that great. And your wonderful heart produces a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger than the magnetic field produced by the brain. In fact, your heart's magnetic field could be measured from 8 to 10 feet away. You're casting all of your emotions not only to every cell of your body, but also into space. And when your heart and brain are coherent, the brain produces a frequency of 0.10 hertz, and this has been shown to be a state of optimum performance. And right behind your breastbone, you have your thymus, which is also connected to your heart rhythm, but your fabulous thymus produces T cells, which defend the body from viruses. But the worst thing is, your thymus shrinks as we get older due to the lack of human growth hormone we produce as we age, and our thymus is prone to long-term stress, leaving us with little energy to help protect us, are able to sustain feelings like gratitude, joy, which promote growth and renewal throughout their body. And when you utilize these positive emotions, you feel fabulous, and your neocortex of the brain can't help but begin to wire those positive emotions into your future. One of Dr. Joe Dispenza's clients said she got out of bed one morning only to be cascaded by an overwhelming sense of love, that she decided to lay back down in bed and really enjoy it. It was an overwhelming feeling of spontaneous love that lasted about an hour. And you really are so much more than you think you are. And no one knows what it's like to be you, or has the privilege of knowing what it's like to be you, or has the privilege of being you. And until the end of time, there'll never be anyone exactly the same as you. And isn't it nice to know that on one level, we have all that we need? So what if you thought about the frequency hypnosis myth differently? And what if you didn't? The choice is yours.